Thanks, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Excited you're all here. We peruse the community feedback posts all the time, and we hear all of your feedback. One of the big things that we've heard is that there's a big need for granular access control when it comes to permissions and support. So you may have permissions that might be all or nothing today, and you want to have CRUD on those things. So recently we released ticket delete and redact, the separation of groups and orgs, and we added CRUD to business rules. We have a lot more on the roadmap, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But this is one of the big things that we're hearing is like, we need granular controls so that we don't have to make everybody an admin. The second part, if you skip down to the third bullet point here, is private groups enable sensitive groups to keep tickets partitioned. That's something that we launched based on feedback directly from you all in the community, in roundtables, in user interviews that we conduct, and that we are grateful that you joined. So now, last, I believe, June, we launched private groups, which enable you to reduce your admin overhead and having to add people to groups. You now have the ability to create public groups where people don't need explicit membership, or you have very sensitive groups like for HR and legal, and we have some more coming there that I'll talk about in a bit. But if you have not adopted this yet, go to your roles and permissions in the admin center, check out the new ticket access types, and create a private group in the admin center under groups. And I'll pass it on to Caroline.
Hi. So on the audit log side, we know that one of the main things that we need to help you with is find the events that you're after faster. So we've spent a lot of time and effort adding in filtering capabilities in the audit log, making it easier and faster to find the events that you're looking for. We also now released the filter that you apply is now shown in the browser URL, so you can start creating your own bookmarks. Filtering is something that has come up and we will continue to talk about during this session, so I'm excited to hear about you all from that. Next slide.
So another thing we've heard from the community is that all or nothing access for the admin roles are non-starter. Today, we're noticing that on average, all of our accounts have too many admins for the instance. What we want to do is break out those permissions that are gate kept by the admin role and release them into custom roles. So in the Q&A chat, Sydney, you mentioned about permission creating roles, but not our permission to add and change roles. That's exactly what we're working on right now. Today, only an admin can do those things, so we're breaking those out into custom roles. I'll get more specific into your question in a minute. If you go to point 3, we're also looking at segregating brand data. So this is something we've heard in many community posts. Today, if you have multi-brand enabled, all of your brands share all the data, which includes tickets, end users, business rules, SSO. We are undergoing a large discovery effort right now. So if you're interested in providing feedback, would love to talk to you more one-on-one offline with Michaela. But we're looking to segregate brand access. And so you have many instances within your instance, and we can get more into that in a bit.
Buttons. On the flip side, for audit log, not only do we have to make it easier for you to find the events that you're after, they need to be there for you to find. So we're still hearing a lot about events that you feel are missing. We are going to make sure that we capture that from this call. We're going to make sure that we capture the events that you are requesting, because I know that there's been a few of those come in. We are currently focusing the team on creating audit log events for any setting that is in Admin Center. And additionally, we've also heard the trigger capability, or the triggers today have a revision history capability, which is something that has come up in audit log discussions of having that kind of capability for more features like macros, etc. Would love to talk more about that. It would have to be a partnership that we do with other teams, but would love to hear if that is something that this group also is interested in. Next slide.
All right, so we want to kind of cover what's happening next. We do have some updates, and we do have some roadmaps that we're going to be sharing. So Nicola, I believe this is an area you were going to cover.
It's me.
Oh, is this
again?
Look, I really want Nicola to go ahead and share.
I know.
I'll get my turn.
I'm really excited, but apologies about that. Go ahead, Caroline.
I promise, her time to shine will come. So upcoming releases, we are taking the audit log into its first step into being a suite audit log by partnering with the guide and help center teams to add these events into the audit log. So we already have like help center activation, deactivation. They are working on a second batch of audit events focusing on section updates, articles, comment settings, categories. Additionally, I saw a question come in about like HC themes that are missing. So again, we'll figure out a way for you to send us these events that you feel need to be added. And we can bring that back to the guide teams as well as they do their work. Next slide. We have a companion piece to the audit log. The audit log is your record of creates, updates, deletes, sign-ins, exports. We have a companion piece called the Acess log, which is an API that gives you read events, such as who viewed a ticket, who viewed a user profile, who made a search, including the search terms. And this is a 90-day record of events that you can use for compliance, security, whatever you desire. This is something that we are launching at the end of the year within a new SKU that is coming. Next slide.
So we heard from you that we need more granular permissions. That's exactly what we've been working on. I hope you've noticed the influx of these releases this year. So the one that is coming up, actually we're releasing it on Monday, if all goes well today, is Access to suspended tickets. So we used to have it where you had a separate permission for suspended tickets when we released private groups that got coupled into Access All. On Monday, it'll be a slow roll, about a week rollout, but in a week you'll see a new permission in your roles page that will say manage suspended tickets not allowed. So you don't want people to access suspended tickets at all, or you want to allow them to recover or delete or export. So that will be in addition to the ticket access that you see above. One thing to note that this does is if you have someone who has access to all, you can still now restrict them from suspended tickets should you wish. But with this, you'll get more granularity. The second one, and I think, Sydney, this is specifically what you were talking about, this will be coming in the next month, is ability to manage team members. So this is a new permission that allows custom roles to manage team members, which means assigning them roles, updating permissions, which we launched last month. But now you can create, assign roles, edit, delete, all that good stuff. So again, this is, you will need less admins in your account who can do all the things and more specific people who do very specific things. Next slide. Another really big one that I'm super excited about is agent as requester. So this is, again, a very big feedback piece that we heard from the community after we launched private groups. We heard that there is a use case where you have internal agents who are acting as end users and you don't want them to see private comments on the ticket. So for example, you have an instance, I need to submit a request to HR to move locations. I can request a ticket into a private group where I'm not a member, and now I'm kicked off those private comments. HR can have their back channel conversations without me involved, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe they're like approve, deny, let's look at her performance. And then I only, as the agent requester, only see the public comments. And so I'll get the resolution at the end. This is something that is coming in the next month or so. We're really excited about this. I think this will help you all use private groups as they were intended to be used. So pumped. Hope you are too.
All right. And now for our roadmap. This is, again, I want to stress, roadmaps are not promises. They are roadmaps and they're goals. So this is just a soft roadmap of what we have planned now, what we're having coming up next, and things that we have down the road. Just to confirm, everything now, Caroline, Nicola, and Alina, is out in product. People can go ahead and jump into it. They're not EAPs. They are actually in the product happening at this moment.
No, not for mine. So agent requester is coming this month. Suspended tickets is coming on Monday. Managed team members is coming this month. And then like the ability for custom roles to manage custom roles. Yeah, we released that a month ago, but I am counting now as like in the next month, you will have these things.
Okay, and the reason I do want to stress that is a lot of people look at now and they're like, oh, this means I can jump in and it's in my product. No, there are some things that are in EAP that are planning on going live. And then just before we move on to our Q&A, is there anything here that's coming up next or coming up later that you want to highlight or that you're super excited about? Maybe things that we definitely need a little bit more feedback on, and we'd love to see that in the community.
Yes, I would love to talk about a few things in the next column. So we have something called brands-based access coming later this year. So this is a 2024 thing. This is not a next month thing. But this is that brand-based access where we talked about being able to segregate data within your brand. So if you're on multi-brand today, you would need to opt into a new feature that we're calling brand-based access. And here, your team members would be assigned to brands, and they would only be able to access the groups and the tickets within their brands, which is a huge change of architecture in the way that you can think about brands today. This is really our move into supporting multiple departments. So let's say you have an HR department, you have a legal department, you have a finance. Those can now be segregated as brands, and that data within those brands is going to be partitioned. Moving down the line, we'll have partitioned access to end users and business rules and SSO, things like that. But right now we're starting with just tickets. The other big thing that we're working on is explore and permissions. So some of you have not been able to adopt private groups because when you go to pull a report and explore, it does not request group privacy. That is something that we're working on, and we understand it is a big blocker. It is being prioritized. And then we have some fun things happening too, like a roles comparison matrix. We had a hackathon internally at Zendesk. Our teams came up with a fun roles comparison where you can see what roles permissions, how roles permissions compared to one another. That's something that's coming. And then last thing that I'll just talk about is something on the roadmap for next year is data masking. And that is masking sensitive PII on ticket fields from certain agents. I am very open to getting on calls with you all, doing user interviews. So I will share that link out in our community post. It's already there, but that's something that we're looking for feedback on in the future. I'll pass it on to Caroline.
I would love to understand if this group is interested in talking about proactive notifications. So like we are hearing that you all don't spend the same amount of time in product as maybe your agents do, and there are still events that are critical for you to know about if they happen, because they have an impact to your agent experience, your end user experience. And we're thinking about, what if we told you about it? What if we send you an email so that you don't have to keep checking in, logging in? Some people even tell me they have I have a reminder at 9 a.m. every morning to go and look at the audit log and filter for the thing and just check box and then go to the next day. I would also love to talk about detailed view. So we are thinking the audit log is a table, and the table is sometimes a little bit constrained in the amount of information we can put in there. But there is more information for an audit log event that we can show you. What if we allowed you to drill into an event and we can tell you more about the actor, for example, what role or what group they're in? We can tell you more about the item that changed and maybe give you a link to go there in case the next step you need to do is change it. Those are the two that I would love to talk about if you want to as well.
Perfect. Again, thanks everybody on the product team for being a little bit vulnerable and sharing our roadmap and getting some insights on that. I know that sometimes roadmaps can be a little tough when it comes to production cycles and not trying to overpromise, but we really do appreciate this on the community side of being able to kind of go and peek under the hood and see what's coming down the road. At this point, I believe we're going to go ahead and shift into our Q&A. Before we go ahead and move on, Alina, Caroline, Nicola, is there anything else that you want to share product side before we start going into what we've heard from the community from Q&As and other pieces of feedback? No? All right, then. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. I know we're getting also a couple questions in the chat. We're going to go ahead and address those after we get through the content that we have submitted ahead of time. Again, these questions came from you during registration. Thanks so much for them. If you do have follow-ups, like for example, Sydney, if you are here, which you clearly are, and you want to go ahead and add some context to what you submitted, feel free to go ahead and either drop that in the chat, or if you'd like, you can go ahead and ask to have your mic turned on, and you can let us know what you're thinking in the moment. And that goes for anybody who either sees their question being asked up here or just has some follow-up to a question that they're like, you know what, yeah, that resonated with me. I have something to share about that. Again, if you're not comfortable doing that, no big deal. But we just want to let you know that that offer is out there. All right. So our first question is, are there any plans for updates that would allow us to filter by type of action in the audit log? And this came from Sydney. Thank you so much. At this point, I believe, Nicola, you're going to go ahead and address this question. I've been waiting for this moment since we started.
Yes, it's my time to shine. Yeah, so I think today in the audit log, we do have a type filter on the UI. Currently, it supports the ability to filter by create, update, delete, exported, and signed in actions. And so, Sydney, I'd love to, since you're here with us today, I'd love to hear what other actions are you looking to have available on the audit log? I'll keep an eye out on the chat for some.
Devin, I think you're on mute, but oh, there, Sydney, I think you're there.
I just turned on your mic, so you should be able to have access to go ahead and chat with us, Sydney.
Thanks, Sydney.
Thank you. So I actually forgot that I asked this question because I asked it again in the Q&A section, specifically being able to search the audit log. Because the filter's nice, but when you're looking for everything related to one type of action, like updates, created, installed, changes, having to filter by each type is of action is very slow process because you have to do it each time. So if we're able to just search for, I want to know when this, everything that happened with this group, name changes, when it was created, when it was deleted, everything.
Well, so that is something that you can do. Like in the audit log today, you have the little, you click on the little filter, it pops open the little side door, and you can choose for the action types. You can choose all of them. And then for apps specifically, you can just choose apps. You don't have to choose the specific app. Like the, there's a little label for like choose any. I think that is technically fulfilling. So like I'm really curious as to why search just feels better.
Because if it's possible to do like fuzzy search too, there's just something a lot faster to just being able to type what you're looking for. Like even if you're trying to look for, it could have been an actor or an item, but you're not sure which it could have been.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Sydney, it sounds like from the way you described it too, are you looking for an ability to search keywords on a search?
Yes, okay. Keywords.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. We've heard some type of feedback around that trickle in, and I think we can definitely add this to the docket and have additional backup that customers are asking for this search. I think the thing with the audit log is that the filter experience that we provide today allows for a very, I think, guided search, if you will. You have a category that you're looking for, and then you choose that category, details about that category. And it sounds like there's a need for a more open-ended, I just need to know if this word exists somewhere in the audit log events. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. To add into like Jamie just threw in the chat in the QA section, you're able to search for actor, but you can't search for like an activity type without narrowing it down first.
Gotcha.
So it sounds, I've always been like worried about the word search because we're not going to be like Google and like, did you mean? But what we could do is definitely a keyword match, like Nika said, of like if you search for APP, we should be able to give you back all the instances or all the events where APP appeared. I would. How far back would you want to go? And really, since the audit log is like a complete record of everything since your account history, do you find yourself going that far back? Or if we gave you a search of like the last 3 months, would that be sufficient for anything?
I think it depends on the scenario because I can see benefits of going all the way back in time because sometimes you don't know when something happened. And so to go only look back 3 months, like it could happen before that. It could have happened years ago, but we don't know when and by who.
Yeah. Beautiful. I definitely think we should dig into this more. Nika and I will take that on.
And for anybody who wants to go ahead and continue the conversation after our PM Roundtable, there will be an option in our post-event survey for you to flag yourself for wanting to be a part of that. So if you have more to share, we don't get to everything that you wanted to go ahead and talk with us about, there will be more opportunities to do that. Just make sure you fill out that post-event survey so we know that you're eager and wanting to join us for other conversations we're going to be having. For time's sake, I'm going to move on to the next question. Thanks so much, Sydney, for sharing that insight. But we do have quite a few we want to get to before the end of the event. And our next question is from Yasser, who I don't believe is with us today, but we do appreciate the question anyways. And he asks, are there plans to add functionality that only highlight changes that happened in the audit log versus having all of the before conditions, actions, and after ones?
Yasser's not here, are they?
No, he's not. So we don't have any additional context for this one.
And this is a really tricky one for me too, because what the audit log does, right, it gives you an event and it says this thing changed from and to, so that you understand what it was before and what it was after, which means that I can't really understand what it is that Yasser means. Does anyone have an ability to interpret this in chat?
And if not, we can move on to the next.
Yeah, and we can reach out to Yasser afterwards and ask him to give some more context. We definitely want more information on the ask, and we'd like to go ahead and address it. On that note, we do have a lot of questions coming into the Q&A chat. Thank you for those. We're probably not going to get to them all today, but we're going to try our best. But we will be writing up a response to the feedback we got and sharing out answers to these questions in our summary content that we share out with everyone who registered in attendance. So if you don't see an answer in the question section of the Q&A today, it doesn't mean you're not going to get an answer over the next couple of days. So moving on, our next question is, are there plans to add the ability for a role to create a license without having to configure admin permissions? And this is from Jamie. And I do believe, Jamie, you're here with us today. Jamie says, to add more, you allow for search by the actor. However, that's what we're trying to figure out.
That's a different one. I think Jamie is specifically talking about roles and permissions here and the ability for a role to add agent seats. Jamie, is that accurate? Okay. She said yes. So we have the billing admin, as you know. It looks like she can't count them off mute. So I guess short answer is not. We don't have it on the roadmap for this year for 2023. That said, 2024 is a big possibility. And so what you're looking for specifically is for an agent in a custom role who perhaps manages team members to be able to add agent seats and configure licenses. Accurate?
By the way, Jamie, if you were trying to come off mute and you couldn't before.
Yeah, I can now.
Okay.
So I'm at a company, we have 1,500 agents. And so we have to have an army of people who can grant and deprovision licenses, but they're trying to be helpful, and they do things like create groups and they update triggers, and they shouldn't do any of that. And we'd like to have the handshake agreement that they don't do that, but they're just trying to be helpful. And then they end up messing up things. And like one time I had to clean up 2,200 tickets because some helpful admin made a huge mistake. So I called a junior admin role. Sydney and I used to work together, different company. And it was the same thing there. Like, we had a group of people, all they need to do is give licenses and take them away. Do nothing else config-wise.
When they give licenses and take them away, they don't do anything around the permissions around that person?
Well, they would grant a role, but I'm saying I don't want them creating triggers, automations, forms, fields. So you know how you've recently added granular permissions for this role can create fields and this one can create, whatever. Like, that's great. I want the same thing for a role. And I thought on your slides that it indicated, I thought it was going to do that, but I may have misinterpreted what it was. So you had on your previous slide something about create, assign, edit roles. So it's under manage team members. So I guess I'm not understanding that then.
It's not about, that permission specifically will allow an agent in a custom role to add, edit, delete team members. What it doesn't do is allow them to add additional agent seats if you need those. So it does the onboard, offboarding, but it doesn't give them the license to add licenses. And so you're telling me, if I'm understanding you correctly, is this person also needs to be able to provision and purchase additional licenses?
No, it has nothing to do with purchasing.
Okay.
It's just someone that says, we have a new hire. Jamie needs a license. Jamie's leaving the company. I need to remove the license. That is all we need to be able to do.
Then the thing that we're launching in the next month should actually solve for this. So you'll be able to grant that person the ability to onboard and offboard team members and agents, assign them roles, and then edit their permissions if you choose to let them. That's another permission. So it's up to you how granular you want to get. But that new permission will allow you to onboard and offboard agents, assign them roles, and manage their access.
That is the best news I've received all year. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Great. Our next question is from Michael. And Michael, I do see that you were here in the chat as well. I did grant you access to turn on your mic if you want to go ahead and share more context. But you asked, are there plans to add an automated feature to offload logs for each month? And the reason you gave that is for download for archiving.
Yeah, it was just around the ability to, like, I find myself going in and actually trying to remember. I don't remember every month to do this. I've got a calendar marker to do this, but I try to go in and download all the logs for a specific time period just so I have that information as I go forward, because I've only been into the audit logs several times, and it seems like there's only a certain duration of time that you can search for. And so I'm worried that everything that precedes that is kind of lost to my ability to find things if I need to go back like years from where I'm at and see what happened. So having something where we could just, check a box or something and then just get an email of a CSV of all of the audit logs that just encapsulates everything that happened for the transactions on the platform for that specific month, and it would just get delivered to us and we could archive it, would be great.
That is a great one, actually. Are you at all comfortable using the APIs? Because you could automate it that way.
Yeah, totally comfortable with APIs.
Yeah. So the audit log has a public API, which contains the exact same information that the UI does. So you should be able to set something up that way and just call it and pull the information and store it, whatever it is that you needed to live for, like posterity.
Okay, but I would have to have my own separate application that calls that API at a specific time.
Yeah, exactly.
That. So, okay. So from a more developer kind of a standpoint, that would work as far as like if you have development access. Like I have access. I have 2 developers that help me, so that's
Yeah,
great for me. But for somebody that doesn't have that and
for
only
sure.
does the pointy clicky thing, it
I
might
know.
not work out.
Is there
But yeah,
anyone on the call who's a more pointy, clicky person who would appreciate this kind of capability as well? We can leave. Sydney can see it. Okay, fair. Cool. We'll look into it. It seems like an easy quality of life thing to give to you, and to kind of take away the extra effort of having to set up and work with the APIs and actually give you a native way to do it. That's a great point. Thank you, Michael.
awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Michael. So our next question, this is another one from Jamie. And she asks, can we have the ability to filter for all users who have changed their groups and monitor when an alias changes? It would be helpful to filter out specific users, also the ability to filter out updates too. I don't know if we covered this a little bit in the last question, but if there's any more context you wanted to add, Jamie, or anything you can go ahead and share about this, that would be fantastic.
I'm trying to remember that question, honestly. But here's what would be great. I would love if the filters, which, you have those create, update, deleted, whatever. I never look at who logged in. I don't care who exported tickets. Like if you had an exclude option, like you do in Explore, like exclude these, and then that would be great.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I meant.
This is something that has definitely come up before, and thank you for raising it again. I think the more work that we've done in the audit log, the more valuable it has become and the more noisy it has become, right? It's a trade-off. And I know my own test account, my first 2 pages are just sign-in events. So it does get a little bit noisy. Nika, can you remember what we researched around exclusions? We wanted to look at this, right?
Yeah, I think this was something we wanted to explore after reaching parity with the old audit log, if anyone remembers that point in time. And so this is very timely feedback because we're trying to figure out what do we want to do now that we have the filters on 4 of the 5 columns that we have on the table. I'm curious, Jamie, for the exclude scenarios that you're talking about, is this something that you would want to set up once and it would persist every time you visit the audit log, or you would want to exclude every visit in the audit log?
I would love if you'd remember my preferences. That would be amazing. Because like I said, I don't care who signs in. There's just certain things I never look at. And kind of going back to the question I put in the chat, the biggest change out of all this is I need to know who put someone in the wrong group. I need to know who updated my trigger when they shouldn't have. And so what I have to do now is I have to go look at the date for when it was last updated. I go filter the audit log, I export it, and then I bring it in. Like with 1,500 people, I can't search 30 people at a time, 30 pages at a time. So it's just easier for me to take it all down to Explore. And now I've just gotten to the point where I download the audit log once or every couple of weeks, and then I just keep my data filter in Excel. And so I have to do all my work in Excel, and I just would prefer to do it in the product.
Oh, for sure.
So that's truthfully the best thing, because again, going back to my helpful admins, they're trying to do a good thing, but they've done the wrong thing. And so I just need to figure out who did the wrong thing so I can provide some coaching.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic of the customize your audit log landing page, right? And do you think you want to see all the same columns? Do you want to remove or add things from there?
I think what you guys show is enough. You get more detail in I feel like you do. I'm okay with the columns. That part doesn't bother me. It's just more, I'm never looking that Sydney made these changes. I'm looking at who created this group when they shouldn't have. I'm looking to search by the object, which I guess to Sydney's earlier comment, I could search for that group name. If you gave me free text search, I could do that. But I would also just be okay with you give me the object. I want to search for a group. Any change related to group creation or deletion or any change related to trigger. Like it's more at the object level than the who did. I'm looking for who did it, so I can't search by the name, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. And the item column filter that we have today is not doing that for you?
No, because all that does is it allows me to look for the person who made the change, but that's what I don't know. Like I'm looking for the person who made the change, not. So for example, the other day I saw where a group had been created. We have very strict naming conventions, so I could immediately tell this was not a group I created. And so I have to go in, run the API on groups and see when it was created. Oh, it was created on July 13th. And then I go to the audit log and I filter for July 13th. But because we have so many, we have 20 admins. So there's so many things there. It's just page after page after page that gets updated. Like I could do created, but we've got lots of things. That created includes customer created, group created, like it includes everything. And so like, that's why I'm saying I'm looking for the object. I want your activity search now, but I want object underneath that to say, okay, I want to see created group or created user.
And that's what I feel that we provide in this side door, in that little filter. There's an item filter, right? Because that the
But
item
the item filter is just your configuration settings. It's not the specific group.
The type does not have a group.
Yeah, like Sydney said, it doesn't have the group.
Okay, we should double check that because group is in the item dropdown and is something that you should be able to filter by. 100%.
I'm looking now. On the item, if I type in group, I can do group, but I can't say the specific group. But I'll try the.
Even if you start typing for a specific group name.
It just spins. It doesn't ever resolve.
Interesting. Okay, this is great. I can take this to our dev team immediately and figure this out because the type filter for group and then the name, which is the name of the group, should be populated and should give you the filtering capability.
Yeah, this actually did help. So that just your question, just answer. So I can't filter for the group name, but I can at least do the filter for created and then the item of group, and I can at least see the groups. So that's a start.
Correct. Right. It's a start. And then I'll get the team on why the name dropdown isn't populating. Neat. But I understand why you still need search. I get it. Ryan, did you want to pipe up for a minute? Do you want to give Ryan access?
Yeah, I saw some of the comments Ryan was sharing, and I thought they were warrant of being able to kind of go ahead and jump on and share. Ryan, you should have the ability to turn on your mic.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm a bit more of a messenger for another person on my team who has had this issue, so I may not have as specific feedback. But one thing that we were trying to find out is we were trying to find which agent added a specific requester to an organization. And the only way that we could find to do it was to go to the event log on the ticket or whichever it was and look at all of the agents that touched the ticket and then search by the agent and actions that they made in order to find this info. So I don't know if it's a similar thing or if I'm
So you cut off a little bit, but you're trying to find who changed the requester on an org, and the only way to find that information is on the org ticket events, org events.
It looks like Ryan may have dropped off, like he might have just got disconnected because I don't see him in the chat anymore. Hopefully he comes back, and if he does, go ahead and continue the conversation. Before we move on to our next question, I know this had a lot of great back and forth. Don't want to cut it off short. So if anyone has anything else to share on this before we move on, I wanted to give that opportunity.
This is great. I have a couple of action items, or Nick and I do, in terms of exclusion and search and figuring out why the group dropdown isn't populating.
And it looks like Ryan's back. Ryan, you should be able to turn your mic back on if you have.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It seems like the page tried to reload or something. So did you hear what I said, or did I get cut off?
Yeah, it was like you're trying to find out who changed a requester on a org or a ticket.
Yeah, so what happened is somebody added a requester to an organization, and we needed to find out who that person was. And the only way that we were able to do it at the end of the day, and this may be just our unawareness, is we had to go to the ticket, look at the event log, and see all the people who had touched the ticket, and search for them to see actions that they had done, instead of just searching the organization and which users were added to it by whom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be as simple as that is not an audit log event that we have, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's an action item for me as well to figure it out.
Cool.
But yeah, that sounds a bit arduous and a lot of
Yeah, exactly.
steps to figuring that out.
Luckily, it was only like 3 or 4 people. But if there was a case where we had 1,500 agents, then it might be a bit more difficult too. But still.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, of course.
All right. So this is we have a couple questions left, and then we have some discussion topics we want to cover with everybody. But this next one is from Leah, and I don't believe Leah is with us today. But she asks, the activity type and item type filters you added are great, but it would be helpful to exclude a particular actor. We have a system user which makes updates, and I would like to omit them. I'd also like to be able to pull just user updates.
So another vote for exclusions, and then only able to pull user of interesting. I wonder if this is like only updates that are made to like end user profiles. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Jamie, I noticed you came off mute for a second. Did you have something to add?
I was going to say, I can see in your audit log you've got contacts, but I think what she may be talking about, and you've got the ability to search for team members. It's kind of related to Ryan's, but in that type window, it just would be nice to have requesters or end users or whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But to be able to search.
Yeah, we call it customer. That's the new name for end users.
Okay. Okay, so I've found that. Let me try this. Oh, that works.
Yeah, and also like if you open like the filters, the item filters, and the type and the name, if something doesn't show up in that little drop down, it's because we have a cap on how much we can display in there. So you need to start typing. So customer for me in my testing account, I have it open, didn't show up. It's because it wasn't part of that list. So I had to type in to see customer. So it's like there's a little bit of work, unfortunately, on your end to understand how Zendesk calls things, like the naming conventions that we put for things.
Yeah, so I typed in user.
Yeah.
And user wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could just add a little bit of text to that description at the top and just, or if there's, I don't know, I assume there's probably a help article somewhere, but it was not, well, there is an I. Oh, now I see it. Some items can't be filtered yet. Yeah, it just wasn't clear. So I thought this was like a drop down where you had to, but this looks like it's more like a lookup field.
This is something that I discovered yesterday, is we were looking for ticket and we couldn't find ticket until we typed ticket in, and that little question mark bubble was helpful, but only helpful after we got a little frustrated.
So there's a lot more things
and
there.
And that cap, right? So it's only it's not going to display everything, because I think if we did, we wouldn't successfully load that page because it could be a lot of stuff. So we display like the first, I can't remember what we chose, like the first 50 or something, and then you have to type.
Maybe a hyperlink in the tooltip that takes you to a page that shows you all the supported attributes.
Mm-hmm.
Could be.
That way, as a user, when you go in there, you can actually go, oh, I wonder if they have what I'm looking for. Just go to take a look at the attributes and look it up, and you may find something that's worded a little bit different, like customer versus
Fair. I agree. Or maybe you should also just make it clear, if you're not seeing what you're expecting, then start typing.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that until you just mentioned it. Yeah, I thought what was over there is what was there.
Yeah, that's probably an easy one too.
Yeah.
If I could mention just one more tiny quick thing that I ran into yesterday while doing similar things. I was trying to search for tickets, and when I found that I could search for tickets as that object or whichever it was called, it seems like tickets just aren't showing up for me if I choose tickets. Like for instance, I just searched the audit log for any tickets that were updated between today and 3 days ago, and no results come up at all. Is that because there are too
Right.
many?
No, it's because we don't have a lot of ticket events. Like the audit log is like create, update, delete, right? But when it comes to tickets, if we were to pull all the ticket updates into the audit log, that
Right.
again would be like the only thing that's
Too
in there.
much.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's where you have the ticket events on the actual ticket that shows
Got it.
you all the updates. So what we have, if I remember correctly, in terms of like audit events for tickets, it's like attachments deletions and ticket deletions,
Got it.
I think, are those that show up.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think now that you mention that, I think I did try to search yesterday for a ticket that was deleted and it didn't show up either. I would probably have to follow up with exactly what the situation was.
Yeah,
But
please
it,
do.
yeah, because like I think that's maybe what it was, that I searched for deleted tickets in the last 3 days, and I had from just deleting suspended tickets and things like that, but nothing came up. So I don't know if it's a
Fair.
bug or something. But yeah,
It could be, or it could be like we're tapping into like how much actual historical knowledge I have about the audit log and everything that's in there. But it could be that for ticket deletions, maybe we don't show like soft deletions and we only show hard deletions, and that happens
maybe. Okay, gotcha.
after. Yeah.
Got
But
it.
we can double check for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Right. I think we have one question left before we move on to the discussion topics. And this is, can you explain what type of business rules should be restricted by group or by brand? More of an advice kind of question.
Yeah, I may need some clarification on this question if Jane is on the call. That said, what we are looking to do in terms of restriction is saying Alina is a team lead in this type of role. She should only be able to create triggers for groups that she's a member of, and perhaps like only these specific groups. So that's what we're looking at now, is like saying, we broke out the business rules permission into its own separate manage. What we need to now do, and we want to do, is like, yes, you can create triggers, or no, you can only edit triggers, or no, you can only delete. And then add the layer of hierarchy, like only for groups you're a member of, or when we introduce brand-based access for only brands you're a member of. But if Jane's on the call, I would love to know. Okay. And then Jamie said, could you please add visibility for a macro to a whole brand versus having to select 30 groups that work under that brand? Jamie, could you come on and maybe say more about that?
Yeah, so we have certain things where the macro would be used by everyone who works. We use brands to go with our division. So we have like an HR division, and we want the macro to be there for everyone, and we use a lot of macros. So, and of course we can clone a macro, and once we've got the groups there, but what happens inevitably is we create new groups, and then we have to remember, oh yeah, now we've got to go update those 20 macros that that group needs. And so it just is a lot of maintenance. And so it would be really helpful if we could just say, okay, this brand, you get the macro. I love the group. Like, I'm not asking you to take anything away. It's just I'm asking for more of, like, you have all agents and groups, or me. I want a fourth option that says for a certain brand.
And so anytime a new group or like entity is created within a brand, that macro applies across the board. You don't have to go in and add it.
Yeah, and I guess the challenge is you don't have a way to connect a group to a brand today, which is probably what our challenge is. But yeah, maybe when it's coming, that would be a really nice complementary feature to add, to be able to allow me to create a macro that the whole brand could use.
Got it. That makes sense. We're going to have groups spanning brands too. So you will have, like, let's say you have an escalations group, and it can span both your HR and your legal divisions.
Mm-hmm.
But agents would still only be able to access the tickets that they're a member of a brand of. So like if you have an escalations group and all tickets coming in from HR and legal are coming in, but you only have membership to the HR brand, then you still only see the tickets for the HR brand in the escalations group. But yeah, but this like idea of applying macros continuously with the creation and addition of groups within a brand makes a lot of sense.
All right, so we had a couple feedback discussion topics we wanted to cover. It looks like we're going to have time for one, which is all right. Thanks so much for the feedback we've gotten so far. This has been pretty valuable. But this one topic we wanted to throw out to everybody. And so if you have anything you want to share, turn on your mics, go ahead and jump into the conversation. But the question is there anything we could do to improve your experience before an incident occur, or after you've resolved an incident/problem? Again, this is something we're just looking for flat feedback on. So if you have any insights or use cases you want to share with us, now would be a great time to go ahead and let us know.
And it is definitely like audit log specific. Like, what can we help more in your journey, right?
I have one. Setting up alerts for certain actions that happened. Like, for example, somebody mentioned groups getting created, getting notified every time a group is created, just so that we can know exactly when it happens, or when this, like when an end user is deleted or an export happens. We would like to be notified when that happens and who did it.
And how would you want to be notified? Like, what would work best for you?
If we're able to subscribe, so then whoever subscribed to that type of notification, like if we're able to set it up with conditions.
And is it a like UI notification? Do you want an email? Do you want a text message?
I think email would probably be the simplest. So then anybody, you don't have to be in Zendesk to get notified.
That's what we're thinking. Yeah. Neat.
Cool. Any other thoughts on this topic?
This is something that, again, I'm the messenger for, but you know how in the event log, there's a strike through to show you what the old value was, and then it shows you the new value afterwards?
On the ticket?
Yeah, on the ticket in the event log. I'm wondering if there's anything similar to that could be implemented in the audit log to show what the change, this was changed to this, but what was it before?
That's usually how we do things. Like for updated events, it should be like a little placeholder for like, is it the name, is it the title, is it the whatever changed, and then from and to. That is all that is in the activity column.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Let me know if there's instances where you are not seeing it.
I'll keep it in mind. It might just be that we weren't looking in the right place for it.
It could also be like it's a really old event that somebody else added, and we haven't like nobody's talked to us about it, so my team hasn't been able to make improvements. Right?
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.